Okay. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first patient webinar of 2022. I hope you all had an enjoyable Christmas and New Year, and today's webinar is going to be talking about the Provox Life experience, the patient story. Next slide, please. So before we get going, I'm just going to start off with a disclaimer. This presentation is a corporate presentation from Atos Medical Group. Nothing in this presentation provides any diagnosis, clinical advice, indication, guide, warranty, or guarantee. Nothing in this presentation can substitute individual advice or guidance from a qualified healthcare professional. You must see your clinician or qualified caregiver for advice on your condition, on products that might be appropriate for you. Next slide, please. So let me introduce you to our speakers today. Firstly, my name is Fay. I'm a speech language therapist and clinical educator here at Atos. My colleague Kathrin Chappell is also hosting with me today, and I'll hand over to her shortly. Kathrin and I will be discussing how the Provox Life range of HMEs and base plates was created and the benefits seen by people with a laryngectomy so far. And accompanying us today, we're delighted to introduce to you Martin O'Donnell, who will be sharing his personal experience of how Provox Life has helped him. Kathrin, would you like to say hello?
Hi everyone, I'm Kathrin. I'm one of the Atos Care Nurses.
Fabulous, thanks Kathrin. I'd just like to remind everybody that if you have any comments, questions or queries throughout the session today, please feel free to pop those into the chat function and we will ensure that we'll get to you towards the end of the presentation. And if you're feeling really brave, you can pop your virtual hand up and we can unmute you and we can have a chat. Next slide, please. So in order for us to get to know our audience today, we're actually going to kick off with a poll. You should see the poll appear on your screens now. And the question is, how long ago did you have your laryngectomy surgery? Okay. Just give you a couple of minutes there to just fill in your answers. Great. Okay. Brilliant. So we should be able to see the results now. The majority of our audience have actually had their laryngectomy for between 2 to 4 years. So it's really helpful for us to know. There are a number of patients who've had their laryngectomy over 10 years. So some experts and a few sort of less than a year. That's really helpful. Thank you. Okay. So I'm now going to hand over to Kathrin, who's going to take you through the actual evaluation and the creation of Provox Life, the range of HMEs and base plates.
Thanks, Faye. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm sure many of you have at least heard of the new Provox Life range, and some of you might have even tried them. It's a high-performance range of adhesives and HMEs, which can help you breathe better in all situations, whatever you're doing. Atos Medical initiated an extensive research project back in 2015, looking into how a laryngectomy impacts one's life. And if you've attended some of our webinars last year, you'll have heard about how Atos Medical collaborated with the Red Associates, who are an external company, to conduct this research. And the research was completed in 2019. After 5 years of interviewing many laryngectomies and clinicians, asking questions relating to coughing, mucus, sleep, socialising, as well as many other aspects of a laryngectomy's life. The aim of the extensive research was to understand what issues impact HME usage. One of the findings was that some people found they had to remove their HME to catch their breath, particularly when doing something strenuous or active. And therefore, when developing this new range of products, the main aim was to improve the performance, particularly of the HMEs, for improved outcome in various situations. Next slide, please. So there are 6 different HMEs in the new Provox Life range. All of them have been designed to offer you a personalised solution for your lifestyle from day to night, so you can breathe better whatever you're doing. Provox Life Home HME is similar to the Provox Extra Moist, for those of you that have used that previously, in that it gives you more humidification. However, the Provox Life Home HME has better breathability than the Extra Moist, and the Home is designed to improve your lung health when you are taking it easy at home. The Provox Life Go HME is again similar to the Provox Extra Flow HME. However, the Go HME provides lower breathing resistance than the Home, but still provides very good humidification, helping make it easier for you to breathe when you're out and about and engaging in daily activities. The Provox Life Night HME is soft and comfortable, and it gives great humidification and helps reduce the dryness, which can lead to coughing and aids a more restful night's sleep. The Provox Life Protect HME is similar again to the Provox Micron, but the Protect has a more comfortable breathing resistance. It warms and humidifies the air you breathe, and also has an electrostatic filter, which is very effective in filtering particles, viruses and bacteria. So this is especially good for when you're out and about, particularly in crowded areas. The Provox Life Energy is a HME with good humidification and low breathing resistance, which is perfect for when you're physically active, and this is a brand new HME in the range. Finally, for those of you who already use the free hands device, there's also the Provox Life Free Hands HME, and this offers both the freedom to speak hands-free and also use finger occlusion. Next slide, please. So a little later, my colleague Fay will give you the results and some feedback for the Provox Life Patient Experience Programme. But first of all, we wanted to share this quote with you. Paul says he's been getting a decent night's sleep since the first night that he started using the Provox Life range. He has had a totally different life now. He can breathe better, sleep better, and has confidence if he walks into a shop and needs to cough. He says his voice is so much clearer, louder, and his wife says pardon a lot less now, and that he's just so very, very impressed. Paul does a fair bit of carpentry and was a little worried before about fine sawdust, but he feels that the Protect really does do just that. Paul also says that riding a push bike was challenging before, as he felt at times he just couldn't draw in enough oxygen, but now he can with ease with the energy unit. He also says that the night unit is fantastic. It's always difficult trying to get comfy, and a lot of the problem was having a solid lump stuck in the middle of his neck, and this has been nicely addressed. So as you can see, Paul's tried the whole range of Provox Life HMEs. So now I'm going to hand over to Fay, who's going to talk more about the Patient Experience Programme.
Thanks, Kathrin. So before we move on to the results from our patient experience programme, I'd just like to put out another poll. So really want to know how many of you have actually tried Provox Life. So you should see that on your screen shortly. There it is. Okay. Just give you a couple of seconds to choose your answer. Okay, we can have a little look at those results. Okay, brilliant. So 79% of the people attending today have actually tried Provox Life, and we've got 6 members of our audience who haven't yet tried them. Okay, that's really helpful to know. So what I'm going to do now is just have a little look at the evaluations that we carried out with a number of patients and have a look at those results and outcomes. So if I can have the next slide, please. So what is the Provox Life Experience Programme? Well, it consisted of a group of patients trialling the products and giving us detailed feedback on how their products actually impacted on their lives in a number of ways. So through that Provox Life Experience Programme, we've received really valuable feedback that demonstrates the positive impact that these products are having on patients' lives. In short, the analysis of Provox Life shows that after transitioning to the products, patients' lung health is improving, they're coughing less, and their adherence to using HMEs is definitely increasing. Next slide, please. So we managed to recruit 95 patients in the UK from 19 different NHS hospitals to take part in this evaluation, which lasted 12 weeks. Out of those 95 UK patients that were invited to participate, 89 of them completed that initial pre-evaluation survey. And of those 89 patients, 68 participated in our early bird evaluation. This took place before the Provox Life products were available on prescription. And 21 patients took part in our post-launch evaluation, which was when the products had finally been launched and were widely available. 77 of these patients were male, 13 were female, and the average age of the participants was 68 years old. And these participants were actually on average about 5.5 years since their total laryngectomy. So these patients were well established with using HMEs and adhesives. Something that we also felt was important to note was the employment status of the participants. And 70% of our participants were actually retired, 4% of them were unemployed, and 20% were actually employed or self-employed. These participants were sent out the products for free for a period of 2 weeks. We sent all the participants a survey before they started using any of the products in order to ascertain their baseline usage for HMEs, what their lung health was like generally, and also their general well-being. The very same survey was sent to all the participants at 2 weeks. And for those participants who continued using the products, they had additional surveys at 4 weeks and at 12 weeks. And I'm really excited to share some of these results with you now. Next slide, please. So part of the evaluation was to determine how satisfied these patients were with the products. And this was asked at 2 weeks, 4 weeks and 12 weeks of the experience programme. And as you can see, by 12 weeks, 98% of these participants stated that they preferred the Provox Life HMEs compared to their normal routine that they had previously. And 89% preferred the Provox Life adhesives in comparison to their normal base plates. What this shows us is that the Provox Life range of HMEs and base plates is having a really positive impact on people. And once they've tried them, they want to continue. Next slide, please. Now, one of the reasons that Provox Life was actually created was due to patient feedback about the distress that excess coughing has caused them. They reported that coughing was something that impacted on their quality of life, their sleep, and their desire to socialise. What we have seen from the people who switched to Provox Life is after 12 weeks, they had a reduction of 50% in the amount of times they were coughing. So in comparison to their usual routine, people experienced the frequency of coughing up mucus going from 11 times a day to only 6 times a day with Provox Life. And this has no doubt had a positive impact on sleep and quality of life. So this was a really pleasing result for us. Next slide, please. One of the unexpected findings was the report from patients about the improvement in their speech. And whilst this wasn't something we were necessarily looking for, we did ask questions around speech. We asked at 12 weeks, was speech, clarity of speech, loudness of speech, the same or worse since starting on the Provox Life range? The results of this were quite amazing. We had 43% who identified that it was easier to speak with Provox Life. That's almost half. 39% felt that their voice was much more clear, and 26% felt that their voice was louder. Like I say, this wasn't something we anticipated would be a benefit, but we can see that the ease of voicing and speaking are certainly factors that have improved for some patients. Next slide, please. Overall, those patients who took part in our experience programme reported that their overall satisfaction from using the Provox Life range of HMEs and base plates was 4.5 out of 5 stars. So we were very pleased with the patient satisfaction. People with a laryngectomy found that the improved lung health and the option for having HMEs for all situations had a positive impact on their ability to resume a more normal lifestyle. We're going to take a little look at a video of a patient's journey right now.
Using Provox Life HMEs and adhesives has been a very positive experience. I halved the number of times I cough per day. I do the things I normally would. What can I say? Life is good.
So that was Joaquin, and he was commenting on his experience of Provox Life. So before I hand over to Kathrin to talk a little bit more about how we can support you with Provox Life, we're going to do another poll. So for those of you who have experienced Provox Life, what have you found to be the biggest impact of using Provox Life? And you can click as many that apply. So we'll just give a couple of seconds for people to go through this. Okay, let's have a little look at some of the results. Brilliant. Okay, so the biggest impact for most people is less coughing, which ties in with the results that we've just seen. 79% of the people who've tried it on the call today have actually reported less coughing. Less mucus as well. 43% of people have said that's one of the benefits, and also sleeping through the night. So it does confirm the results that we've found with our experience program, which is really reassuring. And I'm sure that if any of you have any comments that you would like to add, or tips or tricks, then obviously you can pop those into the chat as well. So I'm going to hand over now to Kathrin, who, like I say, is going to talk a little more about supporting you with Provox Life moving forward.
Thanks, Fay. Next slide, please. So for anyone who has started using or is thinking of trying the Provox Life range of products, here at Atos Care, we can offer support if you need it. All of our customer care agents are very knowledgeable about the Provox Life range of products and are at the end of the phone, text or email, whichever you prefer. In some areas, our Atos Care Nurses, such as myself and the others, are available to support you in your own home should you need that support. And you can find out more information and keep up to date by attending webinars like you are today, and by following us on Facebook and Twitter. Next month's webinar will be all about how to reduce mucus, and will be held on the 22nd of February, and we'll also be running a workshop on the 28th of February. So keep an eye on your inbox for those invites. Next slide, please. In a couple of minutes, we're going to hear from Martin, and you'll be able to read more about his story on the new and improved Atos Care website, which is much more easy to navigate around. And I'd like to invite you all to share your experience with us now, particularly if you've tried the Provox Life range of products. If you have and you're willing to share those comments and your experience, please can you put those in comments in the chat or the Q&A boxes, and myself and Fay will monitor those and share them later on. But for now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Martin O'Donnell. Martin is an Atos Care laryngectomy patient who will be sharing his experience of life after a laryngectomy. He's very active and he's going to share with us how Provox Life has helped to improve his quality of life. Over to you, Martin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kathrin, for the introduction. I'm a retired GP and previous Associate Medical Director for Primary Care and PCU Health Board. But more importantly, I was diagnosed with laryngeal cancer in 2012. Unfortunately, it was an aggressive cancer, and it already spread to the lymph nodes, so I agreed to enter into a clinical trial where I received high-dose radiation and chemotherapy. that left me extremely weak and the difficulty even mobilizing. But despite an episode of Christmas where I got sepsis and was unable to even eat the Christmas dinner, was able to just taste it, I recovered quite well after that and was able to mobilize as we lived close to the beach. I was able to walk along the prom just from one lamppost to the next and gradually was able to build up my energy after that. At that time, I didn't have a laryngectomy. I just had the strip over treatment. Unfortunately, due to the high dose radiation, I developed scarring in the larynx and a non-functioning larynx, which resulted in aspiration, pneumonias, and I ended up going back into hospital in 2016 for an emergency tracheostomy. Not a very nice experience because being rushed in, not able to breathe, and then I was with the emergency tracheostomy in place, we were able to plan the laryngectomy. After the laryngectomy, as most of you know, it's very difficult to get things back to normal. It takes quite a while for the swelling to go down, and initially I was using the tracheostomy tubes with the ties to hold it in place. The HMEs at that stage. Later, as I exercised more and the swelling came down and I was allowed back home, I got to use the base plates. Unfortunately, I have quite a sensitive skin, although the wife says it's not that sensitive, it's thick enough to take all insults, but the base plates that I had at the time caused quite a bad contact dermatitis, so I went through a different range of base plates, and the girls there were very, very good at offering me potentials. The cleansing agents and the adhesive itself, we tried different ones, but unfortunately, I had to go back to the ties and the tracheostomy tube. But I would suggest that I try laryngectomy stud, which is just a little one, which is quite handy because it stays in place and you don't have the contact on the skin with it. That was excellent, and my skin recovered completely. I was able to use the extra flow and extra moist, and as Kathrin referred to, I like to do a bit of exercise, but more I know I like golfing and getting out initially in the golf cart, but later as I developed my strength again, I was able to walk the course and then started doing a bit of hill climbing. It was then that I noticed we run into difficulties whenever you're doing something strenuous because you can't breathe as normal, especially as I work as well as the HME. As you climb higher in the hills, it gets colder, and when you get up to the top, the winds very rapidly, if you don't have HME in place, go into your lungs and results in cooling, and you end up shivering and having great problems trying to maintain body temperature. Whenever the live products came out, I was able to change to these, and nighttime one was excellent because it does cut down the mucus at night, allowing you to sleep right the way through. But the biggest advantage I found was with the energy one because obviously being active it allowed me to be able to put the HME in place and keep it in place when it was going up. As you see from the photograph there, I started off doing small hill walking, but I'm now capable of climbing Snowdon, and the recent picture was taken at place called Ben Gathra, which is known as Saddleback in the Lake District. At that stage, the temperature was -2, with very strong 25 mile an hour, 30 mile an hour winds at the top, and I was able to keep the HME in place, and it made quite a major difference to my ability. So I'm very pleased with the product. Thank you.
Fantastic, Martin. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and really inspirational. And it's nice to see that you're able to go back to resuming some of the activities that you really enjoyed before all of this. We've got a couple of questions, I think, between Kathrin and I, just to ask you. And obviously, if anybody within the audience has got any questions that they would like to ask Martin, then please feel free to pop those into the chat. So what have you found to be the biggest improvements since using the Provox Life range?
Besides exercise, I like to socialize and go out. So previously I used the micron, but it was too big, too bulky. The Protect is actually quite good. It's discreet, and you can wear it under above, or even close your collar over it and still be able to breathe. So socialization's been, once the COVID's been out of the way, and we're like back in the pubs, being able to do so has been very nice, and go to restaurants. But for me, the biggest benefit, obviously, is the ability to go wherever I want, climb wherever I want, be on top of a mountain, and still have a HME in place and maintain my body temperature, which is vital.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yes, a lot of people have noticed that the shape of the Protect is different to the old micron, and so it does look a little bit more discreet rather than being quite so big, and you know, really useful in terms of protection when you're out and about socially, particularly during COVID. So yeah, that's really helpful insight. I think, Kathrin, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, so Martin, would you mind sharing us what your everyday HME routine looks like, please?
No problem. I normally when I wake up in the morning, I nebulize. So the first thing I do is actually remove the button with the HME, and then nebulize to do some nice secretions. Not very nice, I'm afraid, but after nebulizing, I go to the bathroom and expectorate and get rid of as much secretions as I possibly can. So it just makes the day much easier. I do the same at night when I get to bed. And then I make sure that I always have a spare button or stud, so it's been washed and cleaned on using the clean one, and to try to decide what we're actually doing for the day. If I'm wandering around the house, I'd probably use the life goal, because even then I'm quite active doing gardening or whatever. But if I'm going out to the golf course or going to climb somewhere, then I'll use the energy. So I'll put it into the stud and head off. But as most of it's fine, whenever you're out and about, it's suddenly unexpected. You go off and there's a big lump of musical mucus actually blows off the HME, so you have to take it out and clean it for wash. So the fact that the packaging individualizes the HMEs is quite useful, because I'm able to carry those either in my pocket or in a little wagon with me, and able to change it wherever I am. So I normally carry a couple of spares with me, change it during the day if need be. When I get back in and later on from the activities, I normally would be in the go and take it easy for the afternoon, and obviously nighttime, have a bath or whatever, and then change over to the night stud, just making sure the orientation is right. It's quite important because there's two openings on it, and then really privilege a pleasant night's sleep after that.
You make it sound so simple, Martin, switching from one to another for different situations.
It is.
That's
In
great.
fact, that was going to be my next question. You know, how long did it take you to get used to using the different HMEs for the different situations?
I think the fact that they're color coded makes life so much easier, and you get to know the difference between using a red, a light blue, or a dark blue. And once you got that in your mind, it becomes very, very simple. So you take a few spares with you, whatever you're doing, and just use whatever you think is appropriate. But I've been using the extra flow and extra moist before this, so it's well used to using the HMEs and changing them anyway. So it's very easy to transfer over.
That was my next question. And do you find it quite easy using the HMEs with, as you say, you use the Larry button rather than the base plate? So is it easy to use the HMEs with the button?
Well, the one thing that is notable is I had to wait for it to be released. The Larry button that I was using with the extra flow was not approved, shall we say, for the use with the Life product, and I had to wait on the approvals obtained. But the fittings seem to be different, because now when you put the buttons in, you can actually hear a click, and it seats very well into the button and doesn't come out. In fact, if you want to remove it, as you saw, I removed the old button, and then they HME out. So yeah, it's quite easy to utilize and very reassuring, because you know it's not going to pop off.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Because that's what some people were concerned about with the old, the old range, the Provox range is, and other HMEs. They were easier to cough out accidentally. So yeah, like you say, there's that little lip now so that it clicks into place. You can actually hold your Larry button and just remove the HME with the button in situ, but as you say, it's easier for yourself to remove the whole system. That's great. Thanks, Martin. Fay, anything else?
Yeah. So we're really quizzing you now, Martin, I tell you. So a question from me, just for anybody who's thinking about trialing the Provox Life range. How much support did you need from your clinicians in the hospital when transitioning over to the Provox Life range?
Because these are still prescription products, you need, for the general practitioner, you need approval from a clinician in the secondary care setting. My speech and language therapist was able to approve. The same with the button. You have to get the proper fitting for the button, measurements done, and so on. So whenever it came to changing over to the Life product, I simply contacted the speech and language team, said I was thinking about going down this pathway, what would they think? And they were very keen and read up a bit about it and said certainly worthwhile giving it a try and may well be beneficial. Apart from that, there's no need for ongoing support because it's really quite easy to transition, as I said, but you need the approval of secondary care to provide the prescriptions, really.
Yeah, fabulous. So it's just that initial input, really just about getting the products, showing you how to use them. Once you've got that in hand, it all should sort of flow quite smoothly. That's the idea. Brilliant. Kathrin?
Yeah, I'm just reading the chat here. There's a few entries in the chat.
Yeah, we've had a few there.
Paul says the lip to hold the HME also collects mucus. Yeah, he's talking about base plates, so which runs down, affecting the glue on the base plate, causing it to fail regularly. So that's what he's been experiencing. Have you got any tips, Fay, for Paul?
I probably want to see, Paul, to see exactly where that mucus is sitting, and it may depend on which base plate you're actually using as well. So obviously, if you're using something like a hydrogel, which is more like the Knights base plate, then that only takes a little bit of liquid for it to come loose, and that's the idea of the hydrogel. If you're using something like a hydrocolloid, which is something like the Sensitive, then that obviously will take a little bit more liquid and an adhesive remover to get that one off, and obviously the same with something like the Stability. So I think it would depend on what you're using, how much mucus you're producing. Another varying sort of factor will be whether you're using HMEs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So how that mucus is being managed. So there's a lot of sort of troubleshooting ideas that we could look at with you, Paul. You know, obviously, if that's something that you'd like us to do, then you can either get in touch with your clinician, or if you're with Atos Care, then you can obviously give us a shout and we can perhaps talk through some of those options with you. So lots of sort of tips and tricks that we could try. So that's a good thing. I see there's a comment here for Martin. Martin is a real case and is active on the North Wales Larry Club, even though he's Irish. And that's from John in Swansea.
And John
I think that's a bit of a shout out for you, Martin.
John used to be a member of North there, but he's retired now in Wales again. So
The traitor.
John's a regular with us on these webinars as well.
Ah, fabulous.
Good to have you again, John. So Mark says, like Martin, he couldn't tolerate the base plates very well, and they irritated the skin around his stoma. Are there any new products that would get around this? Again, that's down to having that discussion with you, Mark, I think, about which base plates you've previously tried. Have you tried, as Fay says, the hydrocolloids or the hydrogel base plates? Were you using adhesive remover to actually remove the base plate and using skin barrier? Again, I think that conversation needs to go a little bit deeper to find, you know, what you've experienced previously and where you can go with that. So just like Fay said to Paul, you can have that discussion either with your clinician, or feel free to get in touch with us at Atos Care and we can help you further with that.
Great. Okay. And I see that another John has made a comment about the fact that the adhesive fits all the HMEs is a huge advantage. And he also carries a selection of spare HMEs with him all day. And again, I think that comes back to what you were saying, Martin, you know, the individual packaging for the HMEs. Not only is it practical because you can take one or two with you and put them in your pocket, from a hygiene and infection control perspective, that's why we did it, really. So that, you know, we could make sure that they stayed clean and safe, so that when you pop them in, then you're not going to have any irritation or anything going into your lungs. So that's really good. And again, I think you're right, John, actually having the fact that all of the HMEs and the adhesives are interchangeable makes life so much easier. And it does mean that those people who previously perhaps wouldn't use a nighttime HME because they had to change the base plate, can actually do that now. So they don't need to be irritating the skin by making unnecessary base plate changes. But they still get the benefits of using those nighttime HMEs at the same time. So that's really, really helpful. So thanks for that comment. That's certainly something that's a huge advantage.
And I think that's the same John that was saying he's not sure if his messages are getting through. I think that might have been you as well, John. Yes. Paul has come back to us and said that he's using the standard round 24/7. He doesn't mention the HME that he's been using though. Okay. And another John says that he thinks that the skin barrier is important, and it is important to create that barrier between your skin and the adhesive. As you know, a lot of you that are watching today may have had radiotherapy, which will make your skin even more sensitive, and the skin barrier just helps to relieve and reduce any irritation that the adhesive may cause.
Okay. I think Mike has made a comment that he would use the products, but he doesn't have any speech. What I would say, Mike, is actually these products are designed really for improving your pulmonary health. So predominantly the biggest complaint that we were finding from people with laryngectomies was the amount of mucus and coughing. And that in turn had an effect on people's ability to sleep and their quality of life. So if you're thinking that maybe Provox Life isn't appropriate for you because you have no speech, actually it could still very much be appropriate for you, depending on, you know, what difficulty you might have with maybe coughing or mucus. So as the results showed, you know, we can improve that by about 50% within a 12-week period. So no speech, that doesn't rule you out at all. You can certainly be included in this sort of product range. So that's good.
He's actually chatted a little bit further down, saying that he's been on the Life from the Provox Life from the early bird trial, and he's very happy with them. So
well, there you are. I rest my case.
He's already using them.
Yeah, way ahead of me.
Rosa, again, I think Rosa is one of our regular attendees as well. I recognise the name there. Hi, Rosa. So she's had problems with the base plates, which irritated her skin, but now she uses the sensitive ones, which has helped a lot. And the red irritation has gone for Rosa. So that's great. That's great to hear as well, that just switching to a different base plate can help sometimes with that skin irritation.
Okay, so I think, is it Raphael that was finding that the skin gets sore when using the adhesive remove button skin barrier, so you tend to use a Larry button as much as you can. Well, I think, Martin, you'll agree perhaps with that, you know, Larry buttons with the Provox Life range are absolutely, you know, easy to use, and I think, you know, they have managed to reduce that sort of blow off by having the sort of secure fit with that audible click, so that we know when it's in place. So if that works for you, absolutely, that's no problem.
I think it's important to get it measured correctly by your therapist or by the team. But once you got the Larry button, you're not really making much contact with the skin at all. It's amazing the difference it makes.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really good tip.
I've just got a very quick apology to make to Rosamond. I called her Rosa. That's all I could see on the little, there's not enough room on the line where your name is. So apologies, Rosamond. Where was I? And Paul has come back and said that the HMEs, I think this is what he's talking about, varies with what he's doing. So it sounds like he's wearing HMEs 24/7. So again, Paul, just to reiterate what Fay advised earlier, you can either speak to your clinician about that mucus that you're having issues with, or you can get in touch with us at Atos Care, whichever you prefer to do. I think we've scrolling down, there's a few more.
Yeah. Dean has mentioned that the sleep HMEs do help with less mucus at night. What different chemicals are in them to stop generating so much mucus? That's a really good question, actually. It's not that there's something different within the foams. What it is that you now have different HMEs for different situations. So how your lungs are being managed is over a 24-hour period. So if you think about sort of pre-laryngectomy, if we're doing more strenuous activity, we require more energy, more air going through our nose and our mouth, and we can change the breathing resistance that we need for different activities. With some HMEs, obviously, with one HME, you can't do that. So if you need more air in, what tends to happen is that you'll take out the HME to get more air in. So what's in the actual foam itself of all of the HMEs is a salt called calcium chloride. And what that does is, as you breathe out that nice, warm, moist air, it gets trapped in the foam, so that the outside air that's all cold and dry, when it comes back through the foam, actually heats up and goes into your lungs, and it stops you from producing excess mucus. So what the night HME does is, throughout the day when you've been using different HMEs, the nighttime HME actually is almost like a rebalancing HME. So it allows for all of those changes throughout the day to sort of stabilize overnight. So it's not that there's anything new in the products, it's just that we have more products now that are more suitable for different situations. So hopefully that answers that question.
John, a question for you, I think here, Martin, or you might be able to help. So this is John Jones down south again. Says that he finds the night HME is difficult to put in if it's in the middle of the night because it's rubber. So I'm guessing he might be fumbling around in the dark trying to put that in.
I'm not able to answer that one because, as I said, I put mine in, I sleep all night, so I'm not changing it in the middle of the night. But I would imagine the simple answer to it is, unfortunately, you need light, and you probably need a mirror if you're using a base plate to make sure it's correctly in place and fitted. Sorry, John.
Great, thanks, Martin.
And just, it's difficult in the middle of the night when you're half asleep and you're trying to recite that HME. So it is a tricky thing. It's maybe listening out as well for that audible click that you should hear, because then you know it's in correctly. Sometimes we can, particularly with the night, you can think that it's in, but actually if you don't hear that click, then it may be slightly looser. So it might come off more easily. But obviously, if you are ensuring that it's on, it can be really difficult to get it back on in the middle of the night, particularly when you're half asleep.
So I've had a message to say that Alan Morgan has raised his hand. I think Alan might want to speak, but he's also, sorry, that was my bad. I was keeping my eye at the bottom of the screen, which was where I should click to raise my hand instead of keeping an eye at the top of the screen. So apologies, Alan. He's also sent a message, but Alan, I don't know whether you want to actually speak to us.
Yes, I can speak.
Hi,
Are
Alan.
you hearing me? Yes, good day. Just to give you a thing, bring you up to date, I had my laryngectomy 5 years ago. I was lucky in that everything was contained within the larynx, so I just had the total laryngectomy, and I didn't have chemotherapy or radiotherapy, so in that respect, I am lucky. I'm 63 years of age and I'm currently working as a customer delivery driver for Tesco's. Now, since Provox Life came out, I found them very useful. My preferred base plates are during the day, the stability base plate, and at night I use the night base plate and the HME. The one thing I did find with being at work, and it is strenuous work in carrying the trays up and down stairs into houses, etc. Having tried all of the various HMEs that come with the new Provox Life series, I've had to settle on normally whilst at work using the Sport HME because I can find I breathe easier with that one. Having tried both the Protect and the other HMEs that are available, I found that I couldn't get enough air through them when carrying stuff upstairs. Likewise, I would prefer to use hands-free whilst at work, but the current hands-free system, again, as much as I enjoy the change that it's all one size fits all, the actual adapter for the HME is still the old one, and there is found that there is no way that I get enough air through it if you're doing something strenuous whilst using hands-free, much as I would prefer to use it at work, because it would mean I could talk to people as well as have something in my hands, where at the moment customers think initially that I'm shall we say, being rude, that I don't answer them when they initially say good day when I've got both hands full. So it does lead to that. But on the whole, I'm very pleased with the new Provox Life range. On the nighttime range, the only problem I found with that is getting up in the morning. I have to get up, do my neb, then put a stability base plate on before I take a shower. Otherwise, going in the shower with the nighttime one on, as soon as the water hits it, it comes off. So perhaps that's something that should be explained to some people as well. But apart from that, I'm very happy with the range.
That's great to hear, Alan. Thank you. And thank you for that advice about the night base plate. We do actually, when we speak to people who are starting to use the hydrogel or the night adhesive, we do actually discuss the removal of the base plate with them, that using a damp cloth to actually loosen it, because it is made of 60% water. So that helps to dissolve, well, not dissolve, but it helps to remove the base plate easier, and not use an adhesive remover wipe like you would with the other base plates. Using the free hands you were talking about, one way of getting a little bit more air would be to turning it into HME mode, so it's not in free hands mode. So that would maybe give you a little bit more of a lower resistance, so that it's a little bit easier to breathe through. But again, that you won't be able to speak hands-free through that. When you've got something in your hand, you would have to switch it back into free hands mode. And I think in the chat you actually typed that you found that when you cough up mucus during the day when you're at work, if you don't dry your skin properly, the skin on your chest gets inflamed. So that's basically your mucus contains enzymes. So if you do leave it on the skin, it will over time cause some irritation. So that's why we always say make sure that you clean any mucus off your skin. And you can carry just a packet of tissues or a little pack of cleaning towels just to clean that up. Because, you know, as we say, we don't want your skin getting irritated if we can help it. Yeah. Okay, but thanks for joining us, Alan, and thanks for actually speaking to us as well. Great voice.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, I try and catch as many of these webinars as I can. It's nice to be able to interact with other people and give my side. As I said, I was lucky with myself, and I know there are others out there who are not quite so lucky, but we each make of our condition what we want to, and if you can continue to do whatever you like doing, good on you, go for it. But not everybody can, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's journey is very individual and very different, which is why sometimes when we have questions, it's very bespoke to you as an individual, which is, you know, where the Atos nurses come in and giving that really good support, or coming back to your clinicians about these queries as well. I think Mike's put a comment in the chat as well. The night ones do come adrift occasionally at night, but I have no trouble in reinserting it. Okay, that's really helpful to know. And also, this is your first proper winter managing a stoma. As last winter you were using a Larry tube all the time. You found that as the weather gets colder, your stoma seems to shrink. So putting a tube in as you do overnight can sometimes be difficult. Does anybody else find the same? I think Raphael has found that the shrinking has not been something that they've been aware of. Has anybody else experienced shrinking of the stoma in the colder weather? If you have, or anything similar, then please pop that into the chat. I haven't necessarily come across the cold weather causing a shrinking stoma, not particularly, but you know, anything is possible in this world. So, you know, some people are very individual. Obviously the skin does get tighter as we get colder, and therefore, you know, that may be a contributing factor, but I would be wanting to explore that with you a little bit more, really, to see why you're needing to pop in that Larry tube. I'm assuming that it didn't happen during the summer, so you were able to manage without the Larry tube, where it was perhaps a little bit, I say warmer, tongue-in-cheek, slightly warmer than the winter. So Mike, if you could just let us know whether in the summer months it was easier and you didn't have that difficulty, that would be helpful to know.
Great. And I think, shall we, because there's
Always
about
fine.
5 minutes, isn't there? So should we ask Martin one final question?
I think so.
So, Martin, do you have any tips for those who are new to being a laryngectomy? Obviously, quite a few people that are watching today are less than 2 years, less than 4 years, so fairly recent. So have you got any great tips that you can give to them, please?
I mean, it's not any great tips. It's just common sense, really. As we correctly said, everyone's an individual, and we all find our own pathway. But it's really quite important to take time to find out what's right for you. We all talk differently. Alan, when he was on there, was talking with hands-free voice. I can do esophageal speech, but I use the electronic larynx as it's easier to get a longer conversation from it. And some people have no speech and they're using the whiteboard. But take your time. Everything is paper progression. Be prepared to try new technology because it's continually evolving and new devices will come on the market. As you do see, as I found, you can find a better match for your individual. I am a big advocate of activity. As you gather and keep it active is the key to healthy lungs and healthy mind. And getting outdoors, doing what you want, and keeping positive is the most important bit. But whatever you do, it is right for you. If it takes you 6 months to get over and be able to do things, and it took me 6 weeks, there's no comparison. It's what's right for you as an individual. But use HME whenever you can, because it does protect the lungs and help them develop for the future and prevents the current infections and difficulties. Enjoy life.
That's
Great
amazing.
advice there, Martin. Great advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you absolutely nailed that. That's the best advice that anybody could have is take your time and go at your own pace. It is a very individual journey, and you can get tips and tricks from other people, but things may not work for you in the same way. But that's okay because you've got enough support networks around you to try and troubleshoot things so that they do work for you. I'd just like to thank everybody, really. It was really informative, Martin. Thank you so much for participating today. And thank you to everybody for participating in the polls, as well as for sharing your experiences and journey. Again, I've really enjoyed hearing about Martin's journey and for all of your experiences. If anyone would like any further information or support with Provox Life, then obviously you can get in touch with your clinicians, or if you're registered with Atos Care, you can get in touch with one of the Atos Care nurses or your customer care representative. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for all of your time and have a wonderful afternoon and evening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.